So guys, welcome to the channel. We've got the HB Toys ZP1004 on the bench. Going to do a few changes to this. If you've not seen the review, I'll stick it up here and I'll stick it at the end of the video as well. Out of the box, these are not great. I've also got the Land Rover Defender one that's completely upgraded now, and that is good. This, however, out the box, terrible suspension, tyres are quite hard. The steering's really bad. I've changed this slightly already, but the steering's really bad. The electronics are okay, but you don't have all that much control over them. However, in this video, I'm going to do a few mods to it, freshen it up, make it look a little bit better. And then once I've done that, I'm sending this to one of my subscribers. And I haven't told them that, but by the time this video's out, they should know that it's them. Anyway, before we get onto the mods, I'm going to show you how this is done on my little crawler course in the garden.
So stock out the box, well, not 100% stock because I did modify the steering when I first got it, so without the modified steering this would be even worse. Yeah, we'll avoid that one. We'll definitely run over that on the once it's modded, but didn't really have enough control up there. Anyway, let's have a look at this bit. Trying to get up here was an issue for a proper crawler, so the stiff suspension, throwing that front up, not doing any favours at all. So I did try this about 3 or 4 times, and in the end I had to place it on there. Does get up there, needs a bit of work to get some grip, but it does make it up. And then this bit, not too bad. This is quite small, this truck. It says 1/10. I think it's a little bit smaller than 1/10, and it does make it over. It's just not really got too much control going down. It's a bit jerky on the throttle. Did make it most of the way down and then fell off at the end. And this is where you're really going to see the difference between this and then when it's modified. You can see lifting that front wheel and then going over, that back wheel's lifted, lifting that front wheel again, and it's just, there's just no flex there, really stiff. It made it over, but not very controllable. You had to just hit and hope really with the throttle, and again on the way back it's just lifting wheels because of that stiff suspension. But like I said, it does get over. It's not that bad. It's definitely better than some stuff out there, but hopefully this video will show you that you can actually change them and improve stuff quite a bit. I was actually quite impressed at how it managed to get on there and climb up, but again, like I said, it's quite small. That front wheel was sitting up, and then getting over this bit, that stiff suspension is not helping. I had to give it a bit of a run up, and then that just put it off balance, and I couldn't get it back. Again, no real control down there, just got to let it go, and then up this bit at the end, and then over here. Done.
So what are we going to do to this? Well, first thing I'm going to do is change the wheels over. These are the wheels, they're the same wheels, same tyres off of my the ZP1001 or whatever it's called, the Land Rover. These have been used quite a bit, so they've softened up. I have vented them as well, so they've got a bit more flex in the rubber there, and they're a nice chrome look, whereas these are still quite firm and they just look a bit rubbish being orange. So we're going to swap the wheels, take the grille off, take the roof rack off. They're going to be painted satin black. That'll tidy that up nicely. And then we're going to stick some oil shocks in there to sort out this terrible, I mean, if I lift that front one, and as you saw on that course, it's just got no flex at all unless you really work it. But as you saw on the crawler course, it just lifts the wheels everywhere it goes. So oil shocks, and then we're going to try and increase the steering angle a little bit. Not upgrading the electronics. That is the next step for this really, is to upgrade the electronics. It's adequate, the stock stuff, but it's just not really got a massive amount of control, but it's got plenty of power. Anyway, get the bits of trim off, going to paint them, stick the wheels on, and then we'll be back to sort the suspension out. So just by changing the wheels and spraying a bit of the trim black, and obviously a little bit of detail there on the roof rack, made a massive difference to how it looks. So much nicer now, with all that bright orange all over it. Anyway, that's the looks done. Now let's sort the suspension and the steering. While we've got the Dremel out sorting the steering out, and give the body a little trim as well. So if you remember, I mentioned it rubs on the body a little bit, so we're going to give these arches a little trim. The suspension, I've taken these off of my Defender version. These are, I think they're HBX oil shocks, fit in there perfectly. You have to change over. I'll double check when I take them out, but I think you have to just put the little eyelets in there and they fit perfectly on there. I'll leave a link to these in the description. Pretty cheap. So we do the rears, and then I'm going to take the front wheels off, take the front suspension off, and we're going to have a look at that steering. So there's the old shock, there's the new one, and you have to take the metal eyelets out and put them in the new HBX ones, and as you can see, pretty much exactly the same size. So that's the rear done. You can see, I mean, the front's still to lift a bit because it's still got the stock suspension there, but if I hold the front, you can see we've already got that flex there that we didn't have before. Rear done. Get the front apart, and we're going to sort the steering out first. So a couple of things you got to do on here. I mean, first I'm going to stick a bit of WD-40 in there because them bearings are just starting to get a little bit rusty. So on this bit, if I get this over, I don't know how well you'll see this on the GoPro, but when this is slotted into the drive shaft, when you're turning, it restricts it. If I turn it around like that, it restricts the amount it can turn because the little metal pin can't get all the way up here. So what you got to do, when you can use a file, I'm going to use a Dremel, just make that a little bit longer. And then where I've cut that I showed you on the first video, that allows the steering to move a bit more. I'm going to neaten that up and take some more material off of there. Move the arm down to the very bottom one to give it a bit more throw, and then that should, if I do it both sides, that should then give us a bit more steering. So we've got all 4 oil shocks on, and as you can see, we've now got some actual flex without having to wobble it about to get it. It's not got loads of flex, it is still a cheap crawler. I don't want to say toy grade, but it's pretty close to hobby grade. Some of you will argue it's not, but you can change everything on it, and that's my theory. If you can change stuff, upgrade stuff, which we've just done, it's hobby grade. Anyway, suspension's done, the steering's done, so we've got a much better angle on that steering. Now, if you see these stock, you'll realise that they are really bad. I've done something a little different on here as well. I've cut down, you won't be able to see it. You probably can't see it very well, but I've cut this little post down here because when you adjust the steering arm and put it on the bottom of the servo horn, you end up with a really steep angle. It's still going up slightly, which isn't ideal, but I was conscious of cutting that too far and not being able to fix that on, but it's definitely better than it was. Body on, battery's charged. I have trimmed the body a little bit. I couldn't take too much off because of how the inner arches are on, but I've trimmed a bit off the front, taken a little bit off there, and it should, I mean, it's still probably going to rub, and now we've got a bit more flex. It's more likely to rub. I could raise the body up some more, but I don't really want to lose the look of it because I quite like the ride height on there. Rear's fine, rear doesn't rub, but the front might rub a little bit, but we've cleared it up as best possible. Anyway, let's go and see how it gets on now. I've done all the mods to it.
Right, take 2. So we'll try and get over this obstacle this time, because last time we couldn't get over it. Whereas a bit more, I tried a bit harder this time, gave it a little slower, and managed to get over. I did do it the other way around, but got over nonetheless. Now this bit is where you're going to see the first difference. On the last one it was lifting that front grip so bouncy. This one, a little bit of acceleration. Suspension takes a bit of the, absorbs a bit of that shock, and it stops it from throwing the front up in the air. A few traction issues here, but it does get up alright. And again, like I mentioned on the first run, this isn't too bad for this truck because it's quite small, so it doesn't need all that space to get around here. We get around alright. This truck, if you switch it on, sometimes it's got forward brake reverse, and in others it hasn't. You really do need a drag brake, as you'll see here, because you just have to let it go, and you just can't control it very well. But a few times I've run it, switch it off, switch it on again, and I've got a drag brake, or at least a brake. Other times I haven't. So this is where you can really see that flex now. You see there, getting a bit more rubber on the ground, giving you a bit more control, a bit more traction. And you can definitely see on this bit now, this is where the difference is. Over here, no problem at all, apart from getting a little bit excited there. No problems with this obstacle. So all in all, these little mods, they're quite, you know, so the suspension mod's the only one you've got to pay for. The tyres do loosen up over time. Vent them, give you a bit more flex in them. The steering mod is a free one. You don't need to spend anything to do that steering mod. Spraying stuff, I had satin black paint in my garage anyway, so that didn't cost me anything. So there is free modifications you do to this, and then spend $15 on a set of oil shocks, and then you've got yourself a half decent cheap trail truck. I mean, these are less than $100 anyway to start with, so definitely for the money I recommend these. You can fiddle about with them, you can change the motor, you can change all the electronics. Yeah, I do recommend them for a budget trail truck, something you want to mess about with, not spend a lot of money on. Definitely worth a look. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed that, watch the first run again, watch this run, and you will definitely see some difference. Not massive amounts, but enough to make this a little bit more enjoyable to run. Cheers for watching. I'll see you next time.